Dragons are a pretty common staple in fantasy worlds of all kinds, and physically they come in many different forms. Some breathe fire, others fly, and some have other mystical powers they can unleash upon their foes. They can sometimes be found in sci-fi stories as well, but that's something to talk about another time. Let's take a look at these powerful creatures and see which one comes out on top. These are my top 10 dragons in fantasy. First introduced in the 1998 video game Spyro the Dragon, Spyro is a young quadrupedal dragon with purple scales who can breathe fire. He was a unique character in the platformer genre at the time given his ability to glide, which significantly expanded exploration potential within the game world. The game's plot sees Spyro and his dragonfly companion Sparx traveling through different parts of the world of dragons to reclaim the dragon's lost treasure, and to free dragons who had been turned to stone by Gnasty Gnorc. This also involves Spyro clearing the world of the hostile creatures created by Gnasty Gnorc, either by ramming them with his horns or using his fire breath. Spyro makes a list due to his memorable design, which made him a PlayStation mascot for some time, and for his achievements against foes like Gnasty Gnorc and Ripto. His smartass attitude has also been beloved by many over the years. If either the design or the attitude remind anyone of another character created by a different Sony studio, it's because Spyro was created by Charles Zimbius. He also designed Crash Bandicoot for Naughty Dog. I've only ever watched The Neverending Story once, when I was fairly young, and I still have memories of it feeling like possibly the longest story ever put to film. I suppose that does fit with the name, but what I'm really trying to say is that it drags on far longer than it seems like it needs to. It also had some pretty questionable visual effects, even for 1984. Solid musical theme, though. Speaking of questionable visual effects, much of the film centers around the luck dragon Falkor and the assistance he provides to Atreyu in saving Fantasia from the Nothing. Falkor's silhouette is very reminiscent of Chinese dragon designs, but he interestingly has a very dog-like face. Design choices aside, very little is known about luck dragons. They don't seem to have any particular powers other than flight, though Falkor did manage to survive the initial incursion of the Nothing. If Falkor's temperament can be assumed to reflect that of whatever other luck dragons may exist, they're also more or less pacifists, content to live and let live. Perhaps Falkor exists simply as a neutral third party and is known as a luck dragon because he finds people to help out in their hour of need. Never give up, and good luck will find you. Number 8 takes us to an alternate history version of Earth, back in the 19th century, and I'm guessing this one will be more or less unknown to most of you. This book series, named for the dragon it revolves around, shows a fantasy where dragons have become the backbone of naval and, of course, airborne warfare. Temeraire, named for a dreadnought that his captain had seen launched years before, is a celestial dragon. He was intended for the French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte before his egg was intercepted. Celestial dragons are unique in their combat ability. Unlike other dragons that may spit fire, water, or venom, celestial dragons are gifted with an ability known as the Divine Wind. Described as a sonic roar, it carries great destructive force and is capable of destroying most materials on contact. It has even been known to be able to generate a tsunami. Using the Divine Wind was very taxing on Temeraire, meaning that it could not be employed too often. Given its destructive power, it didn't need to be. Next, let's take a look into the world of Pokemon. While it technically counts more as sci-fi than fantasy, and there are plenty of other more dragon-like dragons, Goodra exists in ancient Hisui, so technically I'm right. The version of Goodra that can be encountered in Legends Arceus is different from the one that can be found in X and Y, as are many of the other Pokemon that are found there. This Goodra has a much larger tail, making it look more reminiscent of a slug, but it is still half dragon type, so it counts. Hisuian Goodra is a pseudo-legendary Pokemon, just like its counterpart in Kalos. This means that it has a stat total of 600, which is just shy of most legendaries. These stats are focused on special defense and special attack, making it a tanky wall of a Pokemon that will knock your Pokemon in their ass when it hits back. Unfortunately, most of the powerful moves it learns through leveling are physical, so you'll probably want to invest in some TMs. He who deposed the king under the mountain and shares a voice with the strangest of physicians loved nothing more than his horde. This is not a unique trait among Tolkien's dragons. I say that not to blame his victims, though the dwarves really should have had some idea what their hubris might bring, but just to add context. He had a nose for treasure, literally, and cared for nothing more than the sea of gold that filled his lair. The dwarves of the Lonely Mountain, under King Thror, delved as deep as they could in search of minerals. As they went deeper and found more, they were only driven to excavate further. No matter how much treasure they had, there was never enough. Eventually, someone happened to find a gem so beautiful and luminous that it was taken by the king as his own. The discovery of the Arkenstone, or Heart of the Mountain, marked the final nail in the coffin of Durin's folk. Smaug was drawn to the mountain, where he slaughtered great numbers of dwarves and drove out the rest. He didn't even do anything with all of it, just plopped himself down for some beauty sleep. That is, until Thorin's party managed to enter the mountain and lather the dragon in gold. He was then dispatched by Bard after he decided to get some revenge on Lake Town. Good riddance. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know a ton about Game of Thrones, and after everything I've heard about Season 8, I don't think I will be getting into it. However, the series did introduce some iconic characters both in print and on the small screen. One of the most iconic and ruthless characters was of course the Dragon Queen, Daenerys Targaryen. She had 3 dragons, a trio of brothers, but we are focusing on the one that served as her personal mount. Drogon, named for Daenerys' late husband, burned countless numbers of his mother's foes before eventually destroying the Iron Throne. He was the largest and most aggressive of his brothers, Rhaegal and Viserion. Drogon was fiercely protective of Daenerys, as were his brothers, defending her with all his might. He was shown to care for her deeply and followed her wishes, including burning King's Landing. That said, despite his bestial reputation, Drogon spared Jon Snow after he assassinated the Dragon Queen. While it is unknown why he spared Jon, this perhaps shows that Drogon had a more complex understanding of the world and his mother than he was given credit for. As of the end of Season 8, he was the last known living dragon in the world. Indisputably, the cutest dragon on this list is Toothless. The name is ironic, and yes, that was intentional. Toothless is a Night Fury, arguably the most feared breed of dragon in the world of How to Train Your Dragon. Night Furies are extremely quick and agile, leading to very few accounts of even seeing them before Toothless was encountered by Hiccup Horrendous Haddock III. I say encountered, but I do mean taken down and mangled. Crazy way to make a friend, by the way. Permanently disable them and then fit them with a prosthetic that only works while you're riding them. But Toothless probably would have eaten Hiccup if there were any hard feelings, and he very much did not. As with many of the stories featured on this list, there are some differences between the page and the screen, but across the board, Toothless and Hiccup grow and grow stronger together. Together they ended the conflict between humans and dragons and helped to foster cooperation between the two species. Well, the Burkians at least. There was still plenty of other conflict with other groups. Eventually, the dragons retreated to their hidden world, led by Toothless and the Light Fury, with Hiccup and the rest of the Burkians vowing to protect them. So, technically, archdemons aren't just dragons. The name is also a bit of a misnomer. Archdemons aren't demons. They are the corporeal manifestations of the old gods that have become tainted by the Blight. Once this happens, the newly blighted archdemon assumes control of a Darkspawn horde, and a new blight begins. Given their ability to control Darkspawn through the hive mind, archdemons rarely have a need to join the fight in the surface world, but will demonstrate their awesome power when needed. As we learned in Veilguard, the Blight was formed from the severed dreams of the Titans during their conflict with the Evanurus. This loosed a literal world-ending force on Thedas, which, to be fair, was supposed to have been contained behind the veil. The Blight killed and corrupted everything it touched, while greatly empowering specific beings like the Archdemons. Eventually, the Grey Wardens were formed to combat the first Blight, which was only ended with the death of the Archdemon leading it. Oh yeah, that's the only way they can be killed, by the way. Archdemons can only be slain by a Grey Warden, who must sacrifice themselves for the task. Dark way to go. No pun intended. Disclaimer with this one, I'm using footage from the Eragon movie, but I'm talking about Saphira from the books. Not to say that she wasn't impressive in the objectively not great film adaptation, because she was, but there was so much more to her in the books. Saphira was born after more than a century of waiting. Her egg was taken by Galbatorix during the fall of the Dragon Riders and held for around 100 years until it found its way to Eragon. After bonding with her rider, they more or less went through every level of hell together. The fight against Galbatorix was long and brutal, especially when his allies were factored in. Willing servants or not, Durza, the Razak, the twins, and Murtagh and Thorn posed major threats to Eragon and Saphira. Eventually, of course, Galbatorix was defeated, Murtagh and Thorn began their rehabilitation, and though Aromas was killed, Glader remained a mentor to both Saphira and Firnin from his heart of hearts. The other Eldunari and dragon eggs in Galbatorix's possession were freed as well, giving the dragon population a new breath of life and opening the door to new riders. None of this would have been possible if Saphira hadn't happened across Aragon and chosen him to be her rider. Can number 1 really be anything other than the World Eater? I know that the version of Alduin that the Dragonborn fights in Sovngarde crumples like charred paper when the heroes yell at him, but lore-wise he does genuinely hold apocalyptic power. As the firstborn of Akatosh, he ruled over the people of Admora and later Skyrim. There was actually peace for a time, with dragon priests acting as intermediaries between humans and dragons, but it did not last. The rise of the dragon cult resulted in the dragons becoming increasingly cruel towards humans, who eventually began to fight back. Aided by Paarthurnax, 3 heroes rose up to combat Alduin. They learned to harness the power of the voice and created a new shout to cripple dragons, specifically Alduin. At the peak of the Throat of the World, they faced off the World Eater and brought him down with Dragonrend. He was cast adrift on time using an Elder Scroll, causing him to later resurface during the events of Skyrim. Alduin was only defeated in the end by the last Dragonborn, who was able to absorb his soul and prevent him from returning. Though, ironically, that doesn't bestow any fantastical powers on the Dragonborn, just the ability to unlock another shout. Let me know if you have any differing opinions or if I missed any cool draconic beasts. Just don't start a fight in my comments. Please like the video if you enjoyed and join the family if you want to see more nerdy shit. You can also find me across social media under the same name. Remember, love recklessly. Start with yourself.